Welcome to Can't Stop the Pop, the podcast where we, that's me, Craig,
and me, Matt,
do a deep dive on a song from the 90s or noughties. So, Matt, what song are we doing this week?
Well, we are doing the absolutely iconic When You're Looking Like That by Westlife. So, Craig, what are your immediate thoughts on the absolute banger?
You've literally just taken my word. I was going to say banger.
There you go.
So, I'll switch and go best Westlife song, full stop. Episode over.
Episode over. Thank you. Can't stop the pop.
I think that's where I am with it. But before we actually get into that, who are Westlife and why are we talking about this song?
So Westlife, pretty much one of the UK and Ireland's biggest ever boy bands, and they started in 1998. They have released a somewhat staggering 12 studio albums. And if you put that in context of other people, I mean, Madonna's only released 14. Westlife's sort of albums and singles discography is just absolutely amazing. And they definitely were formed in the wake of the success of Boyzone. And Ronan Keating was originally associated with them allegedly as a manager, but if you want to believe that, at the time, they won 2 Brits, 4 MTV Awards, 4 Record of the Years. Their last album was released as late as 2021. Shane, Mark, Kian, Nikki, and previously Brian. But Brian is no longer with the group. And yeah.
I think you're going to say Brian's no longer with us. I was like, that's not that morbid.
No, it's not that kind of show. But yeah, I've got nothing respect for Westlife.
I think I definitely agree. I think they got a lot of stick. They did ballads, mostly, which this is not, but they did, and they were good at them. They knew their market, and they did that as long as they could. I mean, I will say that some of their mid-noughties albums, bit dodge. I always think about the Love album, and it reminds me of that episode of The Simpsons where they invent Love Day, and I'm like, that is that album.
Where they covered When You Tell Me That You Love Me with Diana Ross. And I just remember the video, and I just Diana, you have been paid so much money to be here, and you don't know who these boys are. No, the thing is that I think you say they got a lot of stick.
Yeah, I think I would say the reason I think they got stick is because they obviously had so many number one singles. And I think, I mean, we were both Steps fans, and Steps had 2 number ones. And you think, they bloody deserve more, considering how close they came and how hard they worked. And I think with Westlife, it felt, in some respects, like they got it a little bit too easily. I think that's perhaps where that, particularly when they were halfway through their second album, they were still scoring number ones. They knew what their audience wanted. I think there was a sense that it was all a bit too easy for them, and actually other acts perhaps deserved a little bit of what they had.
It was a bit insane. That's where I think
at the time it was
almost a given that the new Westlife song was going to get to number 1. And not in the way that, if a Spice Girls song got to number 1, it was deserved because a Spice Girls single was an event. And that run of singles that they had is just unparalleled. But with Westlife, it is quite hit and miss in terms of their discography. I just think that I've got a lot of respect for them for sticking around. In the same respect as Steps, I really like Westlife's new material. I've really enjoyed their last 2 albums.
Yeah, so I think in terms of this song and in terms of their albums, I think what I would say to anyone who's I don't know about Westlife's early albums, because I think they sold in bucket loads, but I don't think they necessarily sold to the people. I think they were sold to mums, weren't they?
Oh, they were the mums and girls, and essentially a Westlife album, and this is... If any of them ever listen to this, I hope they don't take this in disrespect. But I feel like a Westlife album was a stocking filler that you gave your mum for Christmas or for Mother's Day.
I just snorted. Sorry, all of my Westlife albums I got for Christmas, every single one.
So I want to talk about this song. Let's bring it back.
Yes, let's.
The story behind this song is a little bit odd in terms of their discography. It was originally put on their second album, Coast to Coast, but that version is quite hard to come by now. You have to search on YouTube, or you have to dig out your original Christmas stocking filler version of Coast to Coast, because it sounds a bit like a demo, really. And the original version is good, but in that classic sort of early 2000s way, the single remix just like punched it all together. And it was released as a single around a lot of Europe right at the end of the second album campaign. And they made a music video while they were on tour at the time. It did feel very much like it's the last single off the album, and it's not going to get released in their home territories of the UK and Ireland. But it was so popular that it managed to chart outside the top 100, so technically not really chart, but based on like leaks and like overseas imports and stuff back in the days of CDs. They then said, okay, we'll make it a soft release. So it was then released as a single remix with Queen of My Heart, and it is technically listed official charts-wise as a double A-side, but it's not listed on other sites as a double A-side. And I feel like it was such like a soft release that they were like, oh, we'll just give it to the fans to put it on there. But then it was put on the third album again, and not as a bonus track. It was included in the track list in exactly the same place that it was included in the track list in the second album. And then in an even weirder twist of fate with its chart history, it had never been a hit in Ireland, but obviously they're an Irish group and they're extremely popular. And when they announced that they were going to come back in 2018, which was, I think after the tour had finished, it had been 6.5 years, but it had been like 8 years since the previous album. This is the song that recharted, and it is now one of their biggest songs on streaming. It just shows like how good a song it is, but it then went to number 20 in Ireland. I just find it a bizarre chart history. Have I missed anything out there?
Oh my God. I mean, no, it's like I'm nodding away. I'm like, yeah, it's so bizarre because it basically was treated like a double A side here. I remember seeing the music video all the time. I think they performed it.
They perform it on so many tours.
Yeah, they perform it on tours. I'm sure they would have performed it on TV as well. And it's weird because acts do it the other way round, where you finish an album campaign and you put a double A side with a new song on. But so I can sort of see why they didn't want to go, right, here's Queen of My Heart. This is our new single. And we're going to put it as a double A side with a single from the last album, because that's a little bit backwards. And also, I think there was this risk that when you're looking like that, would have been the bigger of the two songs. So then they'd be in this situation where they're going, we're just about to release a new album, but we've released this single. The bigger song from it is from the last album. So I completely get why they did it in a really weird way here. But it is so bizarre to me.
I also think that's to do with the fact that their most up-tempo song previously from Coast to Coast had been Uptown Girl. And obviously it had been a massive hit. And I do think, if I had to say, I think that's their best cover version. I feel like that's a song that they made their own. It was really good at the time. It did so well but when you're looking like that, at the time, probably stood out like a sore thumb of, this is a massive pop song. This is not a mid-tempo ballad. So I do wonder if there was a question of what territory do we release this in and how do we do this? But yeah, it definitely fitted on the third album.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's probably worth saying that it is up-tempo, so that was a little bit different for them. But it's also their first three albums, they had this really clever split. They sort of did half of it with Steve Mack and Wayne Hector, so a UK side, and the other half of the album was done by Sharon. So you had like Rami, Andreas Carlson, Max Martin. They wrote this song.
Absolute geniuses.
I think this is why I love it. This is Sharon, like, this is classic. This is brilliant. If you gave this to NSYNC or the Backstreet Boys, I think it would easily be one of their best up tempos. It's brilliant. It's just fantastic.
That's
why
I
love it. There's a couple of things I like. There's this bit where they go, she's all dressed up for glamour and rock and roll, and there's like these drum crashes in the background, which is amazing. So it was a bit rockier, but it wasn't the sort of overproduced, squelchy electro guitar stuff that they were doing with the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and Britney Spears. It is much more organic sounding. So this is my favourite thing in pop music. is those keyboard riffs that like, ooh. But they don't sound like that. But, like, I love those. Like, they don't sound like that at all.
I have no idea what song we're talking about anymore.
Was it released at Halloween? It's just a great production, but it's different enough. It fits Westlife. It doesn't sound like Westlife doing a Backstreet Boys song, and I think that's the most important thing. It sounds like a Westlife song.
Oh,
and
totally.
It's so. I love the lyrics. I have to say. So there's this lyric at the start where they say she's a 5'10" in catsuit and Bambi eyes, and I always thought they said and bendy eyes, and I was like, what's bendy eyes? That's not a compliment. And I didn't understand, like, what is that? And then I was like, Bambi eyes, and now I'm still like, what's that?
I mean, it also sounds like they sing katsu curry. Like, she's 5'10" with a katsu and bamboo shoots. Maybe that's the lyrics.
But Bambi eyes is...
It means it means doe eyes. It means like she's got doe eyes.
Yeah.
But then doe eyes means dead, doesn't it? Oh.
I don't think so.
I'm just going to call Shane from Westlife. Hello. What do the lyrics mean? I completely agree.
What's Bambi eyes?
I completely agree about the production. I think the song, it is a quintessential Westlife song, and that's what makes it so perfect. This song always reminds me of a very good friend of mine, James, who I'm just going to give a little special shout out, he's from Galway in Ireland. That's my terrible Irish accent. Let's not repeat that. I knew
you were going to do an Irish accent somewhere in here. I knew you were going to do that.
Somewhere. He is obviously rolling his eyes right now, but we bonded over the fact that we loved this song so much when we were working on a cruise ship many years ago. And I think it was our birthdays were really close to each other. And it was one of our birthdays, and just came into my cabin and we just blasted this song out, and we danced like we were like 14 years old. It's just euphoric. It's euphoric in a way that Westlife hadn't really been up until this point. And I love that on the next album, they kept that going with songs like World of Our Own is a brilliant pop song. And while we're talking about obviously the song and them, the vocals on it are just brilliant as well. This is the thing that I don't think sometimes people gave Westlife the real credit for, in that they had some fantastic singers in there. And I absolutely adore Mark's vocals. I've always loved them in all of Westlife songs. It's always the highlight. And I always think when I watch him live, I think Mark is so good. I just love the vocals. It's so uplifting, and yeah, it's fab.
I would say when they launched, I think because they were sort of marketed against Boyzone, they were sort of the next step on from Boyzone. I think there was initially this tendency to push Shane as the Ronan of the group. I seem to remember him being very prominent at the start, if not in the vocals, certainly in the lineup. I love this song. What you really hear them all sing together, and there's all these little touches. It's got ad-libs for days, and you just hear them all fit together. They don't overdo it. It's just great. It's such a well-performed song. It is, like you say, turn it up, loud. It is absolutely euphoric. It is brilliant.
It's a banger. Before we talk about the video, because we haven't actually talked about the video, because we've just gushed about this song. Like, honestly, like, clean up on aisle 5. It's gushing. There is a slightly bizarre version of this song. Are you aware of the Spanish version?
Oh, I feel like I know of it, but I don't feel like I...
Oh my God. It's just one of these record decisions that you can almost hear them in the booth laughing, at least in my head when I listen to it, because none of them are Spanish. You would never do this in pop music today. Can you imagine if an all-Irish boy band decided to put out a Spanish version of a song? It's just bizarre. And what's really funny is that this is a wordy song anyway. How am I supposed to leave you now? There's quite a lot of lyrics in the chorus. If you add that in Spanish, they can't get the words out fast enough. So there's honestly bits where you watch the lyric video and it's skipping through the words so quickly that I swear they just did it at like half tempo in the recording studio because it sounds sped up. And at times it doesn't even sound like it's them that recorded it. Honestly, bizarre. Look it up on YouTube.
Because I think actually that when you talk about them recording, it actually brings on quite nicely to the music video, because it did get a music video. even though it wasn't being released as a proper single in England. And it's sort of a mixture of behind the scenes tour footage, which is my least favourite video concept. I hate it.
I knew you'd say that.
Oh, it's just the worst thing. It's like someone going to see an artist on tour and bringing you back a keyring, and you go, well, that's great. Well, I wasn't there. I didn't see them. I have no memory of that, but thanks. That's what it's like. It's like, it's nice if you were there.
It was done if the record company, if you're on the 6th single from one of these albums, they get to the point when they're on tour and they go, we can't be bothered to make them film a video. But what I find really interesting is that they do film a video. They do an entire pan of them singing the song. So it's like they intentionally made it, we're going to do backstage and we're going to paint the boys. It's really funny and having a really good time. And it does come across as quite bizarre. The thing I noticed was so many times I really laughed when I rewatched this. There's so many times in the video, repeatedly, that they tried to paint Nicky as the cheeky one. There is 3 or 4 times when he winks at the camera in slow motion. None of the other boys do.
Yes.
He kisses a fan in a meet and greet on the cheek, but then it's very lingering. And then it cuts to his full crotch shot on stage doing Up His Fly. And I'm like, this band was marketed at young girls and teenage girls and, obviously closeted gays as well. There's like a succession of shots. I'd love to know what Nicky thinks of it looking back now, whether he just thinks that he's embarrassed or whether that was really what he was like, where he was just undoing his fly on stage night after night at Wembley.
I mean, that would explain why they had so many number one singles. No, I think actually, I like the behind the scenes stuff in this one. I like the stuff that they shoot because it is a bit put on, but I do think you get a real sense of their personality. And what I would say about Westlife is that their music didn't match their personality. And I think it was always quite apparent that they were quite rebellious, and I think they were quite cheeky. And I think that came across in interviews and tour performances. But you never saw that in the music videos until this. And I really liked, okay, the dancing it's like dance, but we're not going to give you a routine to do. Just do what you think you should do. And there's a lot of marching on the spot.
At least there's no unnecessary dance breaks. You know what?
No
that
unnecessary dance breaks.
They're just having fun.
But yeah, and I think it's nice to actually see that side of them. And I feel like you're right, that did carry on into the album. And I think in some respects that once they'd shown that side, that did start to come through much more in their music videos after this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a far cry from their dreadful cover of Seasons in the Sun. Honestly, burn it with fire. It's such a great moment for a pop group in which you see a pop group who have got a big dedicated fan base, but then manage to expand it and get new people on board by just being themselves. And it also helps that when you've got a team of writers behind you that were churning out hits.
I would say it's probably one of their best known songs, even though it didn't formally chart in the UK. I'd probably say it's their 6th most streamed song.
Which is insane.
And that's way above. Yeah, it's above Queen of My Heart, which again sort of goes back to the fact that that's probably why it wasn't a formal AA side, because you'd be in this situation where the song from the last album was more popular than what's supposed to be the new song that's launching the new album. It's got a really strong legacy. I think it's endured very well. And I suppose that in some respects is probably a better legacy than it just going to number one and being another one of their many, many number one singles.
Exactly. Well, if you want to listen to the song, you can find it on all streaming platforms, or you can buy it, in your local record store or charity shop or wherever you can dig it out of. Where can they find us, Craig?
Well, Can't Stop the Pop has a website where there are over 400 reviews, including this song, of course.
Wow.
Which you can find. Yeah, of course. It was one of the first Westlife songs I wrote about, which you can find at can'tstopthepop.com. We're also on social media. I'm at Can't Stop Pop on X and Can't Stop_the_pop on Instagram.
And I am at Matkins Actor on X and Matt_Atkins9 on Instagram.
And if you like what you hear, we do have a Patreon at patreon.com/Can't Stop the Pop, where we have a few little teasers coming of stuff that didn't make the full episodes. So if you can give us anything, no matter how small, We would love you forever.
Forever and a night, in the words of obscure Girls Aloud fans. That was a deep cut.
Okay, we're really scraping the barrel now.
I'd forgotten it was coming. Well, do get in touch and let us know what you think of the songs. Also, let me know if you've got any suggestions of a forever or love pun that I can add into a future episode. Let us know what you think of the show, and please leave us a review, but only a good one, wherever you get your podcasts from.
And you can get this podcast from pretty much everywhere that good podcasts are available. Thank you for listening, and join us next time for more
Can't stop the pop.